What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the EPM Show. This is all things enterprise performance management, and we are here to give you an unfair career advantage. Today, we have Garnier Silva joining the show. He is the director of delivery and leads the Americas team at Keyrus. He's spent almost 20 years in the EPM industry, and he drops some serious knowledge around people leadership today, specifically how to identify whether or not people leadership is the right next step for you, the nuanced approach that's required in leading international teams, as well as how he successfully made the transition from being an individual contributor to leading people he was formerly on teams with. There was a unique transition there for him, and he shares a lot about how he was able to do that. And then lastly, why having an ownership mentality around your career is absolutely critical for success. I hope you enjoy this episode and get a ton of value out of it. Check it out. Garnier, how you doing?
Hey, hi, Chad. I'm doing very, very well. What about you?
Good, man. I'm doing fantastic. Fantastic. We're excited to have you on. I will jump right into the meat of the show and tell me a little bit about you and your career in 60 seconds or less.
Good. That would be a big challenge, but good. So starting from the very beginning, I born in the state of Rio de Janeiro. I live in Brazil, in São Paulo today, since I was 5 years old. I have 7 years old kid called Miguel, which is like with passion of life, of course. He's probably in the best period of his life today. Well, talking about like something that I make for fun is like playing soccer, as probably 90% of the Brazilian people, right? I play soccer occasionally. And of course, my dream as a kid was to be a professional player, which you may have noticed that I'm not. So today and talking about, my career itself, I graduated in building science. Started my career in a big four here in Brazil. And since then, working in EPM environment for 18 years right now. I'm in Keyrus for 10 at this point and leading the teams from Americas over in USA, Brazil, Colombia, Argentina teams, which is a big challenge, but also a big pleasure for me too.
Crushed it. So, so two things on that. First is you have a 7-year-old son. I have a 6-week old daughter. So
Wow.
I'm brand new into the fatherhood game. What's one piece of advice that you have for me in being a dad?
First, there's not a logic way for you to solve all problems. We are from this environment and solutions and everything. We tend to believe that there is like the same solution for every same product problem. It's not the case for kids, right? You guys see them crying and crying and crying, to trying to do the same problems, but in a different way. So yeah, be patient. You're going to be with this problem for only 18 years, probably. So it's fine.
Just 18 years.
That's
That's good. I think there will probably be some good insights for parenting though when it comes to people leadership. I think we can
good.
draw some connections
I
there.
hope so.
The other thing, we share a love for soccer. So my wife played in college as well. What is one thing that your sports career taught you and helped you with in your now professional career?
Team player for sure. Like, you cannot be like alone solving all the problems. You need the others to help you to achieve your targets and everything. So for sure, being a team player as a kid, playing soccer and everything teaches me a lot about how to work now today in my professional environment. For sure.
That's so good. Yeah. So my wife played in college, and like I said, and I was an athlete as well. And I think
Mhm.
kind of on that, like being a team player, and then also just the how you respond when something doesn't go your way, I think is critical. You're in a game competition, like you get a bad call or something happens, you all you can do is play through it. And
That's
same thing in work and projects, it's not going your way, you run into obstacles, all you can do is work through it. And so no, I love that. One more question for you, kind of on the personal side before we dive into our topic for today. But you said you're in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Mhm.
I've never been to Brazil. If I were to go, like, where would you take me if I was there for a week? And what would we
Well,
do?
for a week, you need to go to the northwest of Brazil for sure to visit our beaches, which we have probably 5 out of the 10 most beautiful beaches in the world. There is a lot of good places for you to visit there. And if you come to Sao Paulo, some Americans and Italians friends will kill me for that. But you need to have some pizza here because we have the best pizza of the world. I'm sorry, Italy, but we have good pizzas here. So enjoy it.
The best pizza in the world. Challenge accepted, Italy.
In my opinion.
What is it that you think, like, in your opinion, makes the pizza the best?
Well, the toppings, I mean, like we have like very different tastes or, different flavors of pizzas here, like not just cheese and tomatoes, of course, but this is the base of everything. But we usually put a lot of toppings on that, which makes it incredibly good. I love it.
Oh, that's awesome. No, I mean, the toppings make all the difference in the world for
Right.
sure. So, hey, jumping into the meat of the show here. You've already alluded to this a little bit, being an athlete, and so one of the things that being an athlete taught you in your career was being a team player. And like you said, you lead the America's team here at
Mhm.
Keyrus. And so, tell me a little bit about just how you got your start in people leadership and
Mhm.
what that journey's been like for you.
Sure. And I want to start this with a little bit when I started my career itself. I was just an intern in a big four. Of course, I was not leading in one, but I can tell you that I learned the importance of why we need to care about people. Like at that time, this company had a very, very strong process of people management and performance management. They were really caring about, listening and making people aware that they are important for the organization. So I learned a lot. I have the lucky to work with, great mentors at that time. And I have very candid in my mind today, the importance of being like close to people. And well, when I started really leading people, this happened in 2018. I was around like 12 years in my career, not a kid, of course, but this happened in a little bit fast. Let's say in Keyrus, I was only 4 years at the company and I started managing the Brazil team. The way it happened, Chad, is interesting because, in one day I was paired of everyone in the team. And then the day after, I was leading the entire team in Brazil, which was a big challenge for me. I was not hired for this situation, which is a bit different, right? When you're hired to lead a team, but you were growing in that team. And there were, of course, like people with much more experience than me. Like I was 12 years experience. There were 20, 25 years experienced people in part of my team. And this was a big challenge for me. Like learning, understanding, and and being serious about that for them to trust me. That was the right choice. This was a big challenge. I learned a lot, and then this is how I started leading people. Big challenge, but very very well received, I think, by the company. I'd say.
Thank you for sharing that story. A couple of things hit me here. One is just like having, and I sense it from you, like part of people leadership is having a genuine care about the people that you're leading, not just their performance, but making sure that they feel heard and listened to and know that they're valued in the organization. And you want to talk about kind of the blocking and tackling or the basic fundamentals of talent retention at a company? Just do
Sure.
that. If people feel cared for, and valued and heard, even if maybe it's a decision isn't what they would have done, but they got to share their piece. I mean, that's makes people feel much more connected and like they belong to an organization. So I absolutely love that. Um, the other thing that you mentioned is that, you were 12 years into your career, 4 years in at Keyrus, and then you started leading people who had been your colleagues or were more senior than you in
Mhm.
terms of their years of experience and things like that. And one thing I know a lot of folks deal with, and myself included in many ways, is imposter syndrome, right? So like, how did you kind of
Yes.
navigate that reality of like, hey, they've been doing this way longer than I have, yet I am now the leader, or we used to be colleagues and of the same level, and now I have ascended to actually being their manager. How did you navigate those relationships and build credibility and things like that?
Good. Perfect. I think this was one of the topics that were exploding in my head at that time. But to be honest with you, I'm very transparent in any kind of relationship that I have. And I'm now for this with my mentees also today. And, I did the same. I was transparent with all of them. I was, hey, I took this role. I need to lead this team. I'm going to need your help for sure. So, being clear and transparent and honest with everyone is what makes relationships worth it. They will value your honest and being like really transparent and making them aware of the challenge that you are facing. Right. You need them, they need you. So it's like a mix of, trust and sharing the challenge and sharing everything that you don't know or things that you know and you can, ask their help. But this is, I think, for me, is being transparent, being honest, and, then this way you can build the trust and be successful in your challenges.
Hey, that makes a ton of sense. Kind of one of the things that stuck out to me there was transparency. And when I think about transparency, I think about how a leader has to be the one to go first, right? Like you
Yes.
have to be the one to take the risk first and be honest. Hey, I really need your help here, right? Here's the challenge that I'm facing. Will you help me? And by doing that, you establish trust, you establish that authenticity, and which just builds your credibility and your influence with someone when you need to more step into more of that managerial role. So no, that's really, really great. And I know you've kind of ascended. So you started out leading the team in Brazil, and
Mhm.
now you're leading all of Americas, correct?
Yes.
So how has the dynamic changed for you from leading the team in Brazil to leading international teams of different cultures, different probably some variants of time zone, I'm
Mhm.
sure, and those
Mhm.
types of things. So how has your leadership style had to evolve and change
Good.
as your team has grown both in number and geography?
Yes, a good point. I think, it took some time for me to find the right configuration, let's say, or the right approach for me to be in the position I am today. Well, just for, to bring the context, I was promoted to Brazil manager in 2018. 2019, it became Latin. Started hiring people in other countries here. We have in Colombia and Argentina. In 2021, 22, I became Americans, like, which means like bringing a totally different culture, different time zones, of course, a big country, and, different backgrounds of people for sure, like more senior than what we used to have in Brazil at this point and not that, but a different approach. And what I mean by that, when you're leading international teams, you need to be aware and, take into consideration all the culture differences that you gotta find in your team. This is critical for you to be successful. Like if you don't understand that there will be different histories, different backgrounds, different cultures that you need to take care of, you will not be successful. Like the way you communicate to people is different between each region or each country that you're talking to. Like in Latin, we usually are more, warm people. We tend to not be so direct. We tend to, beat around a little bit before delivering a tough message or something like that. In US and Europe, you guys are much more direct, which is not bad. I mean, it's great because it's clear and crystal everything that you need to, to just deliver, every message that you need to deliver, which is nice. But I took some time to understand it, to differentiate that between something that could be offensive against something that's just direct. So I think this is the most important. Understand the difference of cultures, backgrounds, all the dynamic that brings with these regions. In Brazil, Latin American countries, let's say, economy affects a lot the way people react to problems and to everything. Like we usually say that we survive, we don't live, we survive because of, how different it is. Like we always have crisis and we're not in a easy situation, let's say. In a much more developed country, they're more stable economy and everything. This makes a lot of difference in how people grow, how people create their values and everything. So we need to take this into consideration, right? This is the value of it, I think.
I'm curious, like when you're bringing teams of people together from different countries, different cultures, different histories, like you said, everyone's worldview is very different based on their
Yes.
lived experiences. So I know for you as a leader, you have to take that into consideration, and I'm sure you have to take the time to seek to understand, like that person who lives in Los Angeles versus the colleague who lives in Sao Paulo, Brazil is going to be very, very different. Those lived experiences are. How do you help those two individuals, for say as an example, how do you help them do that as well? Because you sit kind of over them and can see both, but when they work together, like how do you coach that and facilitate kind of a culture of understanding and
Mhm.
curiosity when it comes to people's backgrounds and stuff like that? What have you seen on the team?
Yeah, this is good. Like we did this, I think at least twice in the past few years, when we started like being more engaged and exchanging knowledge and relationship between each country. We did like some sessions about, what's curious about Colombia, what's curious about Brazil, what's curiosity about the USA, sharing between them, like sessions for local teams, explaining what happens here, what is, what's their way of communication style and everything. But also when there are this kind of situations, when we need to understand what's the main problem that's happening. And it's usually, Chad, about communication. Like 90% of the challenge that we have had related to this kind of, interconnection, let's say, between countries was related to communication. Like people sometimes, of course, that we have, and I'm not talking just about the language barrier because this exists, of course. I'm not talking my mother tongue, and I apologize if I'm making any kind of mistakes here. But I'm talking about like the style itself that I mentioned before. Like sometimes people in the US, they tend to be, sometimes though, they tend to be very direct. And in Brazil, they'll be offended if something like it's crystal clear. Hey, your job is not good. Please fix that. In Brazil, we would say, hey, please, can you take care a little bit more, be more careful about doing this kind of things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We tend to not do that. So what I do, like, I make the bridge. I try to fix, like, to understand it, translate it in a better way, not translating itself, but it just, making sure that the message that we want are being delivered. Like, this is the kind of how I treat that case by case.
I love that you have facilitated conversations around just the different countries where people live in already, and just giving time and space to do that with folks. And then also when, conflict or misunderstandings arise, being able to be the bridge between the two and help each other understand where they're coming from. I think one of the things I've learned when it comes to people leadership too is like it is better and always much more healthy for us as leaders to assume positive intent
Yes.
in all things until we have, documented evidence otherwise. Let's assume
That's
positive
it.
intent. No one is going to try to do something intentionally wrong, intentionally hurtful,
Mhm.
or anything like that, but we have had a misunderstanding. So when we approach conflict and challenges with positive intent, I think it just totally changes the dynamic of the discussion and
Totally
leads
agree.
to growth.
I totally agree with this. I'm also very positive when we have the same kind of challenges. I just say like when I personally face any challenge or any problem that I was not expecting something, I just tend to say, hey, I don't have time to cry. I need just to react and solve this problem. Right? This is the way I usually approach this kind of situation. And well, if this is sorry, if this is happening to other people in my team, I try to be positive enough. Hey, let's just fix that. It's not personal. It's nothing that, someone was trying to hurt you. Let's just fix and, move on. This is the way we usually treat the issues here, the challenges, let's say.
Mm, absolutely. So
Mhm.
I know one of the other things that you and I've talked about offline as well when it comes to people leadership is that not everybody is best suited to be a people leader. And there is a difference, and that's okay. And part of that is self awareness and knowing your strengths, knowing where you're good, what gives you energy versus takes energy away from you. So, you know, how would you describe the difference between a good leader in a EPM consultative setting versus a great architect? And how should people who are thinking about the next step in their career almost like hold the mirror up to themselves and say, like, where am I really best? Am I best continuing to pursue technical expertise and growing in that
Mhm.
regard? Or do I need to step up from that senior consultant role into more of the team manager position? Like, how would you help someone kind of evaluate that for themselves?
This is a great question. I think, well, there sometimes the shift from consultant does not happen to a leadership position, right? We promote people, we promote a great consultant, a great solution architect to a people leader or manager. And the result is that we just lost a great consultant. We don't have a good manager, right? This happens. And as you said, that's okay. Like leadership is not for everyone. And I think, in my career, this happened at 2 times. And what I would say, like, if you were a consultant today, that you were listening to us here and you were, thinking about a position in leadership or something, this is not just about the title. Like having a leadership position is much more than that. I think you touched on this, Chad, before. If you roll your eyes when people make questions to you, when people ask for 5 minutes to talk to you, when people ask your advice, maybe it's not the time. Maybe you're not ready for that. right? You should not have a genuine interest on listening and be available for people, and making sure that you were paying attention what they're saying and try to solve their problems. Maybe you're not ready for that. And I can tell you today, Chad, that I spend today probably 20, 30% of my time, maybe more, just talking to my mentees today. Like, I'm in a position that I need to, of course, monitor and being very stick to my schedule because there's a lot of things happening at the same time, but I still reserve some time to talk to my mentees, individuals, one-on-one with them, weekly basis. I learn with them a lot, but I also listen. I also try to solve problems together, and I stand by them. Like every time that we need to take a decision that there is a chance to be, search for to impact them in any way, I'll be there. I'll be there in front of them, like really to take all the charge for that. So this is what a leader must think about this. Like if you are not ready for that, there is a lot of great technical people that is very, very successful in their careers. Like you don't need to go to a road where you believe it's better, but it will not be easy. So there are options, right? It's not like one way for everyone.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. A couple of things that what you were saying, kind of made me think about is the first is that leadership is not a privilege, it's a responsibility. And it's like you said, it's not for everybody. There are some folk like leadership is about serving those who
Hmm.
you lead. It's not just about getting a title that's a privilege as a result of knowledge, right? It's like you said, like you reserve time for your mentees, for those that you lead. And so you have to sacrifice your time. You have a
Hmm.
responsibility to them to give your time to that. And if you're that kind of an individual where that feels a little bit like an inconvenience or it's exhausting for you, then pursue that more technical
Yeah.
path and be a SME and a
Hmm.
resource in that way for sure. But it's kind of like knowing battery life a little bit, I think is a big part of it for folks. And that's where when everyone's in the seat where they feel the most life coming from the work they do on a daily basis, like it's the best for the organization because I'm like you where I would take all day to talk to the people that I lead and that would be a productive day, whereas if I'm too much on the computer doing my work, not engaging with
Hmm.
folks, that's where I start to lose battery life a little bit. So, no, I love that, just
Yeah.
looking in the mirror and kinda testing your gut reaction to what's put in front of you. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think, it's just a matter of you understanding where you are right now. Like I just said, like look at the mirror. If you believe that this will be something that will really bring energy to you, go for that. If not, like think about different roles. We have at Keyrus, let's say, just for you to be aware, like we have Keyrus in Keyrus, we have a position that's just for technical people. Like you will probably not be requested to lead in one. You will probably not be requested to face clients. It really just solving technical problems. You can be great in that. We need the technical gods, let's say, to help us. So there are positions for this kind of profile also. Like, and for sure, there is also the same in other companies. So there is space. There is room for everyone.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, another question that I have for you as we kinda wrap the main part of our show here is, what piece of advice would you have for someone early in their career in the EPM space?
Good. I love this. Well, maybe not only in EPM space, but I will repeat something that I say to all my mentees, everyone that is really have had any opportunity to work with me, and when they ask some advice, the main thing that I say today to them, Chad, is like, you are responsible for your career. Like it's not your boss. It's not your parents. It's not your partner, your wife or your husband. It's you. You own your career. You own your happiness. Like it's not anyone else that will make you happy. And if you don't, if your career is not priority for you, it will not lead to anyone else. Like, so make your own luck. Like make things happen. If you're not happy at your job, change it, find another. If you're not happy with decisions that were taken to impact you, like raise your hand, be there, like make it happen. This is something that I repeat constantly to my mentees. And I think it helps them like to, be accountable for the decisions that they take about their own lives.
No, that's good. We talk a lot about that in some of the leadership work and leadership advisory work that we do, this concept of radical ownership.
Mhm.
You are responsible ultimately for the results of your career. The buck does stop with you. And that's something I've got to remind myself of every single day too. Like
Of
it's
course.
not that I feel like I have attained it. You know what I mean? Like I have to look myself in the mirror and say, you are responsible. And there's a difference between fault versus responsibility.
Yes.
Like something bad that happens in the organization, there's layoffs, pipelines down, whatever it is, might not be your fault,
Mhm.
but you
How you
can take
react.
responsibility for it. Yeah, and it's gonna
Yes.
impact you, so take responsibility for it and identify, like, what are the things that I have within my control
Totally.
to be able to do, and it's the way you build relationships, it's your knowledge, your
Yeah.
expertise, continue sharpening your saw. I think that's fantastic,
You nailed
fantastic.
it.
So this has just been a very, very rich episode around leadership. And I think it's so important for folks, I think, in the EPM space, because one of the things we talk about is if you can pair the technical expertise with the soft skills and the ability to influence, there's such a demand for EPM right now that you can write your ticket anywhere.
I agree. Totally agree. Like the EPM word is really warm today. It's getting hot and hot. And then for sure there will be opportunities for any kind of profile. But this is very good.
Yeah.
Very good moment for us.
Mm, absolutely. So I'll get you out of here on this. We always ask this question. I love to hear where people are, but do you've continued to grow your career in consulting, you're leading teams, you've leading all of Americas, and you have a 7-year-old son. Do you have any sort of a big, hairy, audacious goal that you're going after right now? It doesn't have to be professional, it could be
Mhm.
personal, but what is the thing that you're working towards right now?
Well, I love this. I think, well, the big hairy audacious goal that I have today is like really to be a big investor in startups, like in future. I really have this dream. I'm today an angel investor in tech startup. Actually, they're not startup anymore. This happened in like 2017. They're now like the big company and I love how they're passionate about their objectives and their goals. So I want to be in future someone that can invest more and more in these entrepreneurs and, make them and just see their faces and their eyes brighten, let's say, by seeing their companies growing and with a very clear objective to how just, help the world itself. I love that.
That's awesome. Being an investor and empowering other entrepreneurs to build great organizations that make an impact in the world. That's fantastic.
I hope.
Fantastic. Well, hey, as we close out here, where is it that people can find you if they want to reach out and continue this conversation?
Sure. Well, you can find me very easily on LinkedIn. I'm very active there. So Garnier Silva. So my entire name is there. So Garnier Silva, you're probably gonna find because there's probably no other Garnier Silva in the world. I'm very active there. And of course, in my work email is garnier.silva@keyrus.com. So you can just send a note and I'm more than happy to connect and talk about anything.
I love it. I love it. Garnier, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. And I cannot wait for this to get out to the audience so they can start thinking about how to take the next steps in their career, whether it's people leadership and how to do that well, or continuing to pursue the technical path. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Chad. It's a big pleasure for me. I'm a big fan of your work. So keep that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Wherever you're consuming this, if it's YouTube, if it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, we appreciate you. Make sure you're subscribed. We have a lot more amazing guests on the way, a lot more great content. We're doing our best to bring you value and have fun while we do it. We really want this to be a career advantage listening to this show, and we want you to enjoy it. So it means a lot. Make sure you're subscribed for what's to come. And also, if you're up for it, it would mean a lot if you leave us a like, a comment, a rating, a review, whatever platform you're on. That really helps, and it gets us fired up when we see those. So I appreciate you guys. Find us on LinkedIn. I'm Blake Bozarth. My co-host Chad Pyke with a Y. Would love to connect with you there. Have an awesome day. See you next time. Peace.